And go.
Hey everyone, welcome to LYB Podcast. On today's episode, I want to talk about romanticizing things. And first off, I do want to say, thank you again for everyone who listens, everyone who supports. I truly got to reflect off of this past weekend. I went glamping, and I've been there before. It's Tennessee Glamping on Instagram, so you can check out on there. But they're super cool. It's like these domes, and I love the idea of structures. Like I love like that you can just build and like Airbnbs and like rent out and whatever. Anything from the domes to I even like food trucks. Like I love all the kind of like the business mindset of it. Like I just love that all of it. And I own an Airbnb, so it's always good to kind of like take it all in. But I went there a year ago, and basically when I went, it was super cool. It was like, with me and my mom and my dad, and it was just kind of a getaway. And I just gotten started. Like I had been doing like my bodybuilding programming stuff for August, September, October, November for about 4 months. And I've been seeing some changes and started to feel good in my body and stuff. But, we went and it was super cool. And I remember sitting there by the fire, and I remember getting upset and crying because, I just had wished that, I knew that that was something that maybe like my late, partner would have wanted to do. Right. And it was one of those things where I was just very still in grief, very just still like, just starting to get my healthy lifestyle journey back. And yeah, and it was a super cool to go back there and truly like I went alone, and I am all for it. Like I at first, I remember being there, sitting there with my mom being like, maybe someday I can like bring someone here and like I was romanticizing this. Like I was like, and we can like come and, sit by the fire and we can watch a movie and it'll just be so fun, and she was like, yeah, like I think that would be great, and it's something to kind of, think about and just hope for, right? And literally from working and just like fighting for what I want and doing all these things and the shows and not like getting a break after my shows and just continually keep working and everything like that. I was like, I need this. Like, I need this kind of solo trip. And it was kind of cosmic because this was around the time that he had passed 2 years ago. And it was one of those where it was around his birthday. And so I saw that they had an opening over that weekend, and they never have weekend openings. So if you go on there, you'll see they're booked to like the end of 2024. And I was like, man, this is going to be awesome. So I'm going to just do that for myself. And it just lined up that I didn't have clients that Saturday. So super weird. So I was like, okay, this is the first Saturday. Literally in the past year, I've had 3 Saturdays where I have not worked. And that was when I went to California, but I worked out all day long, posted, still was like working. And then my show, and then my other show. So in a full year. So I was like, man, you know what? Let's go do this for yourself. Yeah, it's a little bit expensive, but like I talked to them and they gave me kind of like an influencer deal and everything like that. And that was super cool. And yeah, I mean, I felt like very at peace when I went. And honestly, I didn't get sad one time. I didn't cry. I didn't feel like I was like less than or anything like that. And it was super cool. But it was just this moment of looking back at like when I was first starting out back on my healthy lifestyle journey with the whole bodybuilding stuff, and how I was romanticizing this idea of, getting a partner and like, and bring them here and it'll be so great. And it almost kind of took away from me enjoying the time I had with my parents when I was there. And I started to kind of like obsess over like how I was looking. I didn't feel like I looked as good as I should have by that point, and just kind of was in like a weird headspace. And I remember before we went on a hike, like changing a bunch of times. And it was just like, I just was not comfortable in anything I wore, my hair, nothing like, and I was still just in that grief state of mind. So I go there this time. I roll up on a Saturday. I had like not rushed. I had drank my hot chocolate on the way there. I brought my meals with me, and I wanted to make it kind of like a treat. Right. And so I ended up like going to get pizza that night and watching, and under under the dome, there's actually, so like beside the dome, there's a fireplace and a hot tub. And then underneath is a projector. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to work this projector. Couldn't figure it out, and no one was answering me on Instagram. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. It's like, this is what's so pathetic. Like I cannot camp. Like I would not survive. Someone had once told me like, go out like 3 days in like the woods and just like, like kind of like sit with yourself. And I was like, and what? Like get eaten by a bear? And so literally I couldn't even figure out the projector, but finally I did. And then I was like, yes, I feel so successful. It's the little things, right? And so, and it started my fire and did the hot dog and like, just again, I know it seems simple and you're like, wow, like really, but you got to realize my days are so packed. My life is so jam packed. I'm always helping others. I never get time to even think through a thought or even read through anything. Like I've had friends send me reels and like TikToks and things. And over the past couple of months, I've opened them and like haven't even been able to finish them because things have been so crazy. Like when I get home at night and like if my parents are still working on the house and stuff for the renovations, like I literally I literally have 30 seconds to like get in the bath, like take my like literally I'm making my meal, my dinner while the bath water's running. Then I sometimes eat my food like in the tub, like it's so weird, I know. And then literally like go to bed. I have not had a moment to myself. And so having this weekend was epic and everybody respected my boundaries. It was so cool. I got to turn off my phone. I got to have just time. And it was awesome. And I will say, time felt so slow there. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, it's only 4 o'clock. Like, what is happening? But it just shows you that you get so obsessed and so like rigid with things. You're like, hey, I gotta make it through this day. I gotta make it through this day. I gotta make it through this day. I gotta help this person. I gotta help this person, whatever. And I really do try to enjoy each day to where I'm like, if this was my last day, like, it's cool. Like, I'm good with it. And so it was funny because I literally was sitting under the projector and don't act like none of y'all have ever had this situation happen, but I'm sitting under the projector and I like heard like a noise. And I'm like, okay, well, you're out in the middle of the woods, like you're on the side of a mountain, maybe something's like out there, whatever. But there's an opening. So like if something was wild, they could come up right up in me or zombies. Like, I mean, it could have happened. Okay. So I'm sitting there with my like big old pizza and from this like family restaurant 30 minutes down the way that I went to go get, and I have my alpha cookies. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like watching Manifest. It was the new season. And I'm like, man, like, and then I started watching Killer Sally, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? If this is the way I go, it was worth it. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt so good with everything. Like, just good with my life, just good with everything. But I was like, I've seen too many scary movies and packed up my stuff and went back up into my dome. Um, but anyway, but it just was awesome. And but it did really make me appreciate my house, which is so like which it was funny because I thought that I would kind of like be like, oh, because when I went to the Airbnb, when I went to the dome last year, I was like, man, what a cool spot. I would just go chill here and like not even like like not even miss my apartment. Like I just like loved getting away. But the moment I got to the dome, I was like, man, I miss my house. And that was such a cool like feeling. And so I do want to just like give a shout out to our sponsor, my brother, Mikey Dyer. So his brand is Dyer Nashville Real Estate, and he's the one I bought my house from. And so it's just a cool like moment to be like, okay, like a year ago, I had my house, but it was still like when we went, like it was just kind of new still. And like I didn't have the Airbnb running yet. And like I wasn't living there yet. And so it was one of those where like this was a moment where I genuinely appreciated that whole transaction, like everything that happened and how he helped me to get that house. And so if you are looking to, stop spending money on rent and everything's been so crazy and expensive and actually invest, he will be really straight up with you and help you to get the best rates and everything like that. And his website's just dyernashville.com. So obviously same last name because we're the same dad. So anyway, but I do want to say that was something that I appreciated. And so like, again, we romanticize these things and sometimes we can't even see what's like right in front of us. And it was so cool to be like, man, me and myself, my happiness, like being grounded in myself. It didn't matter if I was at the dome. It didn't matter if I was just doing my workout, which I just got done doing. Or if I was at my house or wherever I'm at, the happiness truly does come from you. And that's what makes like your experiences so special. And so to keep that in mind always. So with that, I was watching that Killer Sally Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it, guys, but it's based on a true story. And they interview the woman, Sally McNeil, who was a bodybuilder. And she got married to, I think it was Ray McNeil. It was his name. She got married to him and she was in the Marines, stuff like that. But she was very abrasive, very strong, very like, I mean, she was doing powerlifting meets, she was wrestling, like she did bodybuilding, all these things. But like they were a couple together. And, what ended up happening is, and spoiler alert, but she ended up shooting him, and he physically abused her, her whole time they were married for like 8 years, and she came out of an abusive relationship and out of abusive home and all these things. So that's all she knew was abuse, and she ended up going to prison, and basically the jury and people were like, yeah, she just shot him. Like she was intentionally, like, she did this. Like, they didn't look at her as being abused. They didn't take into account the 8 years of him choking her, like him almost, I mean, like he broke her nose. He did all these things, right? Which again, I'm making him sound like a villain, right? I'm not saying that she wasn't, you know, I don't know, like whatever the word is, physical as well, and angry, and like, and whatever. And I do believe that when you're in bodybuilding, both of them together, there was type of a competition. Like, she worked and like made the money. She was the breadwinner, and let him compete so he could get to like the Olympia and things like that. And I think he went and he got like 15th and whatever. But it's just one of those things where, she ended up shooting him on Valentine's Day of, I don't know, I think 1995 or something like that. And the reason I bring this up into our story, into the today's podcast, is she romanticized the idea of Valentine's Day being this like amazing day. She wanted to spend it with her husband, but she knew like he was like stepping out on her and he was seeing somebody else and like all these things, right? And it literally broke her to the point, like, that was what was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, after 8 years of abuse, him cheating, all these things and whatever, it was that day that she romanticized and thought that, like, man, we're gonna have like our time together, we're gonna enjoy this, whatever. And it was so hard to watch, because I know kind of, from my experience, what going through that, you do hit that breaking point. You don't know when it's going to happen. And it was, it's hard to watch, because I know that so many women go through this, and so many women too, and in the bodybuilding community. And again, I'm not saying that she was perfect and that and everything like that, but they should have just separated. They should have just left. Like, one of them should have just walked out, but he was her everything. Like, to her is how she explained it. Like, she loved him so much. So I think that sometimes we just can't get out of our own way, no matter if everybody else knows it or everybody thinks that, it's a toxic environment or whatever. We always think that either they're going to change, like our partners are going to change, or something is going to happen, and I do what kind of did her in was she shot him twice. And so when she first did it with a shotgun, she should have just let that go. But she knew that, like, if he survived, like, she would not survive. And she ended up going to prison for 25 years. So none of the jury took into account that she was battered before. They kind of made her look like, well, she's a strong woman, and they use that against her, which is crazy, right? How times have changed. And I really do believe that if it happened in today's society, like, she wouldn't have done any jail time, because it would have been deemed as like self-defense. So it is interesting. And I really think that you should give it a watch. But even when she was talking about how to the cops, like, what happened, she was so meticulous about it, and so just like straightforward of like, this is what happened, da 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 da, whatever. And people don't understand that, like, when you're a bodybuilder, you're a certain type of personality that, like, you just say things. You're very blunt about it. You're very like, this happened and I did this, because you're super regimented. Plus, she was in the Marines and stuff. So I don't know. It just kind of got me thinking. I was like, man, it's just like nobody saw it from her perspective. And I wish that there would have been someone, it was just very like very black and white. Like, well, you shot your husband, like, stuff like that. So anyway, again, like, we don't know. We weren't really there, and we don't know what truly happened. But I do think that it's one of those where even a strong woman like that, physically, she didn't have that balance of mentally, of being that strong. And she dealt with things and settled for things because she just thought it was normal, because she was that far gone. So when reflecting back at my experience and going back to this weekend and doing these videos of these transformations of how I looked, like in my progress photos of like how I looked last year around this time to now, when I'm posting, it's not about necessarily, oh, now my body is great, so now I'm great. But it just goes to show all the hard work, the mental fortitude, the physical, everything holistically, to get to that point where feeling at peace. And that is what genuinely I wanted back last year. I wanted to feel at peace, not feel sad, not feel less than, not feel run down or torn down or whatever. And again, it was a choice to decide to get up and move every day, to get up and get a coach, to get up and get my movement in, and to, love myself more, and to love myself throughout. And I still loved myself throughout when I was, doing when I was there the last time. But again, it was just something to to say that like that mental piece like wasn't there yet. And even now, I'm sure I'll look back a year from now and be like, man, I thought I was good. That, but again, because you're always getting better. And that's what having a healthy lifestyle is. I think that we romanticize this idea that when we get that partner, everything's going to be better. When we get that body, everything's going to be amazing. When we, get to this and that, like, it's just like, stop trying to get there. And, or when we get Instagram famous, or when we get like picked up by the sponsor or whatever. Again, yes, these are great goals and these are awesome and like, whatever. But you have to remember to stop focusing so much on getting there and enjoying that journey throughout, even the ups and downs, even the bad days, even when people annoy you and whatever. It's on some level, it's making you a better person. It's keeping you patient. It's keeping you, driven. It's keeping you going to like, it's keeping you, there's a reason for it, I believe. And for the negativity and for the, all of it. And even my experiences, that I went through, there was a reason for it because I mentally wasn't strong enough to walk away at the time. And I wasn't mentally, capable of understanding like being manipulated and being, verbally abused and things like that. And it's so great that now I have the opportunity to look at things and be like, man, I had people who asked me like, hey, like, do you want some company while you're glamping? And I was like, no, I really don't, because it's not to say that, oh, I don't wanted that partner, but something that I romanticized and like truly wanted for like that whole year before, like I would have given my right arm for, I was just like, no, like I'm good. And to be good with yourself and to be good just where you're at is such a special thing. And like when I watched that on that, on Netflix, when I watched the Killer Sally thing, she went from one abusive relationship right to the next. Like I think it was literally not even a month later she got, and then ended up marrying him 2 months later. Like, so there is something special, guys, about taking your time and taking time to find who you are and just, to really know yourself. And not to say you can't do that with a partner or whatever and everything like that, because you should grow together. But I think there are seasons of time where that being lonely, and especially around the holidays, how people can look at it as like upsetting, or they're going to go to holiday parties and things like that. And they feel like, oh, I'm not with somebody and so people are going to kind of look down on me. Who cares? Let them look down on you. Let them do whatever. Like, you don't owe an explanation to anyone because this is your journey. And I would much rather be good with myself, able to do things on my own, capable, strong, mentally, physically, than be in something that is going to tear me down and it is keeping me from being my best. Yeah, so I don't know. So I just think it's interesting. If you have any insights on the Netflix, on the series, like please let me know. I kind of put it on my Instagram and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a good watch. And just to really be, like I said, in tune with yourself in this holiday season. And we'll talk more on this coming up and everything. But there's nobody that can make you feel some type of way. You just have to sit with yourself and say, like, what do I want? Genuinely, what do I need? And if you need to go take a solo trip to the Tennessee Glamping to the domes, like tell them I sent you and like you can go check that out. If it's just taking time for a dinner by yourself, if you're a mom and you're like, I just need my kids to be watched and babysat for the night, like whatever it is, I truly hope that you do it because you will come back so much better than if you would have just grinded and like pushed forward. And me, myself, a year ago, 5 years ago, I'd have been like, oh no, that's weak. Like you fight for what you want, you keep going, whatever. It's like, you can still fight for what you want while taking a day or even two to kind of regroup, rejuvenate and get better and kind of get your mind right before, finishing out the end of the year. So I hope that you take the time. And if you ever need anything, you can always email me or DM me at Dani D Fitness 1 on Instagram or Facebook or all the social media platforms. And until next time.